Hi, you're watching Reddit Confessions. Welcome. Let's dive into a story that didn't start with love or even an argument. It started with the sound of her laughing from behind a locked bathroom door. But she wasn't alone. I was sitting on the hallway floor with my back pressed against the cold drywall, staring at the thin line of yellow light slipping beneath the bathroom door. She'd been in there for almost 40 minutes. The shower wasn't running. No hairdryer. Just muffled laughter. And a man's voice. My own breath sounded loud, too loud. I had one sock on, the other twisted halfway off my foot like I'd forgotten how to get dressed. My dinner sat cold on the kitchen counter. I didn't remember walking out of the room. All I knew was, my wife had locked herself in our guest bathroom, and she was laughing with someone else. Inside our house. On a Thursday. I didn't knock. I didn't yell. I just sat there, blinking, swallowing the kind of lump in your throat that feels like it's made of glass. When the door finally creaked open, she looked down at me like I was something sad and soggy left in the rain. Her phone was in her hand, screen still lit. The man's voice stopped the moment she opened the door. She didn't explain. She didn't apologize. Instead, she sighed, like I was the one who ruined her evening. "You need to stop doing this, Nolan," she said. "You're suffocating me." Suffocating. That word hung in the air like smoke. As if my quiet presence outside a locked door was some grand act of emotional terrorism. I wanted to say something. Ask who it was. Ask why she couldn't laugh like that with me anymore. But all I managed was, "Who were you talking to?" She blinked slowly, her expression already bored. "It doesn't matter. What matters is this isn't working. Not like this." Then she gave me the ultimatum. Right there in the hallway, with the scent of her expensive shampoo still lingering in the air like a lie. "I need freedom. I need space. I'm not saying I want to leave. Yet. But if you can't handle me having male friends or late nights out or privacy, then maybe we should reconsider things." I waited. For the punchline. For her to crack a smile and say she was joking. But Isla never joked. Not anymore. "I'm being honest with you," she added, as if that made it noble. "This is your moment, Nolan. Either you grow up and accept that I need more than just this life, or I walk. Tonight." I didn't answer her right away. I stood up, brushed the dust off my sweatpants, looked her dead in the eyes, and then I said something that didn't even feel like it came from me. "Then walk." I don't know who was more surprised, her or me. Her mouth twitched, like she hadn't prepared for that answer, like she thought I'd beg. Again. But I didn't. Not this time. And that one quiet sentence, those two words, set off a chain of events that no one could have seen coming. Because as she packed a small overnight bag and slammed the door behind her, she didn't know I had already uncovered everything. The silence after she left was louder than any argument we'd ever had. It clung to the walls like fog, seeping into every room, every object she didn't take with her. The scent of her still hovered in the air, vanilla lotion and that ridiculous overpriced candle she insisted made the house feel alive. But the house didn't feel alive anymore. It felt like a graveyard of things unsaid. I didn't sleep that night. I paced, stared at my phone, checked the time every 15 minutes like something magical might change. But nothing did. No call. No message. No regret. She didn't even ask if I was okay. For years, I'd been the one to reach first. I was always the one to say sorry, even when I didn't know what I'd done. It became my role. The fixer, the apologizer, the soft one who never left. But this time, I didn't break. And maybe that's what saved me, because at 3:14 a.m., I opened her laptop. I shouldn't have. I know. But curiosity is a cruel thing. She'd left it on the dining table, plugged in, humming faintly like it wanted to confess something. I didn't go looking for anything specific. I didn't even know what I expected. But once I clicked into her messages she clearly didn't think to log out of, I found a name. Micah. And then, paragraph after paragraph. Dozens of messages. Some flirty. Some cruel. Some that made my chest physically hurt to read. "He still folds my laundry like it's romantic. It's kind of sad. If I didn't initiate intimacy, he'd probably die a virgin all over again. I wish you were the one I came home to." Micah was real. And he wasn't just some friend she met at work. He was the person she texted when I fell asleep on the couch. The one she sent photos to, some innocent, some less so. And worse, the one she vented about me to like I was some pathetic burden she had to drag through life. I just sat there, rereading the same line over and over again. If he ever finds out, he'll probably write a sad poem about it. I didn't cry, not because I was strong, but because I was too numb to feel anything at all. I remember staring at the screen with my hands clenched, my jaw locked, and this strange, detached voice in my head saying, "So this is how it ends." Not with a bang, with a paragraph. The next morning, I went about my routine like nothing happened. Fed the cat, took out the trash, brushed my teeth while staring at a face in the mirror that looked older than yesterday. I made coffee, hers too, out of habit, and poured it into her favorite ceramic mug. Then I dumped it straight down the sink. She returned around noon. No apology, no remorse. Just dropped her keys on the counter and gave me a look like I was the one who owed her an explanation. "So, did you think about what I said?" she asked, taking off her coat with the slow drama of someone who believes they hold all the cards. I didn't answer her question. I simply said, "Who's Micah?" Her body froze mid-motion. That was the first time in months I saw her mask crack. She opened her mouth, but nothing came out at first. Then, finally, "You read my messages?" I shrugged. "You gave me an ultimatum, Isla. I gave you your answer." The silence that followed was different than before. Heavier. And in that moment, for the first time since I met her, she looked genuinely afraid. She realized the one thing she never thought would happen had. I wasn't chasing her anymore. The strangest part about betrayal is how quickly it rewires your instincts. One day, you're folding her sweaters with lavender dryer sheets, and the next, you're calmly memorizing the login screen to her cloud storage account while she showers. That's where I found the photos. Not just of him, but of them. Together. In hotel lobbies. Holding cocktails. Smiling. And in one particular image, her wearing the necklace I gave her for our anniversary. His fingers brushing the clasp. I didn't confront her. Not yet. That's what made the game shift. The woman who once saw me as predictable suddenly couldn't read me. I started acting like I didn't know. Asked her if she wanted anything from the grocery store. Complimented her on a new blouse. Let her make her coffee first. And every time she looked at me, I saw the same flicker in her eyes, suspicion. She knew something was off, but couldn't figure out what it was. And I think that terrified her more than any screaming match would have. The next few days became a performance. She lingered longer in the mornings before leaving for early meetings. She began cooking dinner again, burnt chicken and overcooked rice, but still, an attempt. She even sat beside me on the couch and watched a full episode of that crime series we used to love. No phone, no excuses. It would have felt like progress if I didn't know it was scripted. Then came the real twist. Friday night, she asked me to join her for dinner at a new place downtown. I blinked at the invitation, confused for a second, but I played along. We drove in awkward silence, the kind where every turn signal felt like a ticking clock. The restaurant was one of those modern, dimly lit places with sleek leather booths and menus printed on single sheets of recycled paper. We were halfway through the main course when she put down her fork and looked me straight in the eyes. "I think we can fix this," she said. I wanted to laugh. Not because it was funny, but because it was so wildly disconnected from reality. She was trying to rewrite the narrative before I could expose it. Reclaim the role of the caring wife. But I just nodded and said, "Do you?" She reached across the table and touched my hand. "I know I've been distant. I made some mistakes, but I never stopped loving you." That word, love, sounded so foreign coming from her now, like she'd borrowed it from someone else's script. I nodded again, staring at her like she was a painting I used to admire but now just couldn't connect to anymore. She must have taken my silence for forgiveness, because her tone suddenly grew confident again. "But there's something I need from you, Nolan. Total honesty going forward. No more questions about my whereabouts, no more snooping. If you want this to work, you have to stop acting like the victim." That was her new version of the ultimatum, disguised as reconciliation, wrapped in empathy, but still poison underneath. And I said, "Okay." But this time, my voice didn't shake. My hands didn't tremble, because I knew something she didn't. Earlier that day, I had sent everything, photos, messages, even timestamps of her meetings, to her sister. The same sister who once told me, "If she ever breaks your heart, I want to know about it." And the sister? She didn't reply to my message. She didn't need to. She simply shared one word. Watch. The message arrived just after midnight. No subject. No text. Just a video file. From Isla's sister. I hesitated for a full minute before pressing play. My stomach already knew what was coming. It wasn't denial, it was dread. That familiar whisper that says, "You're not ready for this, Nolan," even when it's already too late. The footage was grainy, like it had been recorded from across the room. I recognized the place instantly, Isla's office. The same art on the walls, the same cluttered bookshelf I helped build during lockdown. Isla was sitting on her desk, legs crossed, looking far too relaxed for someone supposedly under pressure from work. Across from her, perched on the edge of the windowsill, was Micah, smiling, confident, hands on her thighs. I didn't hear most of what they were saying because I couldn't stop staring at how familiar they looked with each other. Not the awkward tension of a new affair. This was seasoned, practiced, intimate in all the worst ways. But then, at 1:03 in the video, Micah said something that broke me. If he even suspects, just cry. You know how he gets. Guilty, soft, always wants to fix things. He'll swallow anything. And Isla laughed. Not just a little chuckle. A full, bright, open-mouthed laugh like it was the funniest thing she'd ever heard. I paused the video. My chest felt hollow. Not angry. Just erased. Like I was nothing more than a character they rewrote in their spare time. But the worst part? It worked. She had used those exact tactics. The tears. The vague apologies. The false promises to work through things. I wasn't her husband. I was her cushion. Her fallback plan in case real life with Micah didn't pan out. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat at the kitchen table in the dark. The video still paused on the screen, her laughing face frozen like a cruel portrait. I thought of every grocery run, every late-night pharmacy trip, every day I stayed by her side when she said she felt lost. And now I realized she was never lost. She just didn't care. When Isla came home the next morning, the air changed the moment she stepped inside. I didn't greet her, didn't ask how her night was. I just sat there sipping coffee like I wasn't holding her secret between my teeth. She acted normal, too normal. She even hummed while she unpacked a bag I hadn't seen before. New perfume. A receipt from a boutique downtown. I watched her closely, and when she turned around, I simply asked, "Did you have fun yesterday?" Her eyes flickered. Barely, but I caught it. "I worked late. You know that." I nodded. "Sure. Just checking." I let the silence stretch. Let it grow into something uncomfortable. She didn't ask any questions. She just smiled and kissed my cheek like we were still us. But inside, I had already left her. Because I knew something she didn't. Micah had no idea his wife had received the same video. And she had already replied to me. One sentence. "Let's meet." We met in a quiet cafe 2 towns over. One of those places with uneven wooden tables, chipped mugs, and a record player in the corner playing Billie Holiday like it was still 1963. Micah's wife, Rowan, was already there when I arrived. She was dressed simply, hair in a loose bun, eyes tired but alert. There was no anger in her expression, just a strange, eerie calm. The kind you only see in people who've already lived through the collapse. I sat down slowly, unsure of what to say, but she didn't wait for pleasantries. "How long?" she asked. I hesitated. "Too long." She nodded once. No gasp, no dramatic hand over the mouth. Just confirmation of what, deep down, she'd probably suspected for months. Maybe years. She pulled out her phone and slid it across the table. On the screen was a message thread. Isla's name at the top. The texts were casual, even sweet. Compliments about outfits, invitations to meet for drinks, shared jokes about the men at home never understanding. And then a photo, not of Micah, of me, asleep on the couch. "She took that last month," Rowan said quietly. Sent it to me with a laughing emoji. Said I looked like a sad house pet. I stared at the screen. I couldn't breathe. I didn't even remember that night. But the blanket in the photo, the one Isla had draped over me, it had looked like a small act of care. Turns out it was just part of the setup. Rowan continued before I could even respond. "They think we're idiots, Nolan. They think because we're quiet, we're soft. But you don't let someone drag you through hell and call it a relationship." She reached into her purse and pulled out a small envelope. Inside were printed screenshots, hotel receipts, calendar invites. One even included a dinner reservation for 2, under a fake last name Isla used often. They weren't careful. They didn't need to be, because they thought we'd never question them. I swallowed the burning lump in my throat. "Why are you showing me all this?" Rowan looked me in the eye. Because I want to end this on our terms, not theirs. And just like that, a plan began to form. Not revenge, not some wild scene. Just truth. Controlled. Quiet. Devastating. That night, back home, Isla was already asleep when I walked into the bedroom. Her breathing was soft. Peaceful. I watched her for a long time, wondering if she ever truly loved me, or if I was just a placeholder until someone shinier came along. But I didn't ask. I didn't cry. I just turned off the light and lay next to her like everything was normal. Because in 2 days, nothing would be normal ever again. And she had no idea. By Sunday morning, I had done something I never thought I'd do. I reserved the same suite Isla and Micah had used. Yes, that one. The hotel with the rooftop bar she once claimed was too stuffy for us. I booked it under my own name. I wanted her to see it. I wanted her to wonder what I was doing there. But more than that, I wanted to reclaim every place they had defiled. I didn't check in to sleep. I checked in to prepare. Rowan and I had spent hours carefully gathering every scrap of evidence we had. We built a folder, digital and physical, filled with texts, timestamps, photos, confirmations. We didn't edit anything. No dramatics. Just truth, laid out with a surgeon's precision. And then we sent out the invites. To our spouses. To their colleagues. To Isla's family. And, because life is ironic, even to her boss, who had once toasted our perfect marriage at a holiday dinner. The message was simple. There will be a presentation. Monday, 6 p.m. Don't be late. No signature. No threats. Just that. The next 24 hours moved like slow thunder. At home, Isla was unusually clingy. She brought me coffee in bed, asked if I wanted to go out to dinner, even wore the necklace I gave her during our honeymoon, something she hadn't touched in years. It was like watching someone rehearse affection, practicing sincerity she thought would keep her from losing control. But I didn't bite. I just smiled, nodded, answered in short sentences. I didn't even bring up the weekend. And that made her visibly nervous. She kept glancing at me when she thought I wasn't looking, like I had turned into a foreign language she suddenly couldn't read. On Monday, I left work early. I showered, got dressed in the same suit I wore to our wedding. That wasn't for her. That was for me. The hotel suite looked exactly like it had in the pictures, sleek, modern, too clean. A space designed for brief moments, not real connection. Perfect. At 5:58, I opened the door. Rowan arrived first. Her face was unreadable, but she gave me a small nod. Then came Micah. Alone. He looked smug. Confused. Maybe he thought this was an intervention. Maybe he thought I'd finally grown a spine and was trying to win Isla back. Then Isla walked in. And the moment her eyes landed on me standing next to Rowan, she knew. She knew. Her whole face changed. Her posture stiffened, smile faltered, and for once, finally, she didn't know what to say. I gestured toward the TV, where Rowan had already connected her laptop. The screen lit up, and we pressed play. The room was so quiet during the first 30 seconds of the video that I could hear the hum of the minibar. No one spoke. Not Isla, not Micah, not even Rowan. The recording started with one of Isla's messages, her voice, smooth and certain, telling Micah how easy it was to manipulate me. All I have to do is cry a little, she'd said, laughing. He's addicted to feeling like he's saving me. Then came the photos. One after another. Isla and Micah at restaurants, in hotel lobbies, a few taken clearly by someone else, which meant this wasn't just a secret affair. It was a game. They were proud of it. Rowan had arranged the footage perfectly. There was no pause, no space to argue, no moment to deflect. Micah shifted in his seat first. His smile slipped completely off. He glanced at Isla, like maybe she'd start explaining, spinning, backpedaling. But she just stood there, frozen. The woman who once delivered ultimatums without blinking now looked like a shadow of herself. When the video ended, I didn't say a word. Rowan stepped forward instead. Her voice was calm, cold. She looked straight at Isla. My lawyer will be in touch. You've been served. Then she turned to Micah. Don't come home. Ever. She slid a plain white envelope onto the table and walked out. Micah muttered something under his breath, but I didn't catch it. He followed Rowan out, trying to explain as the door clicked shut behind them. Isla and I were alone. She didn't speak for a long time. Then she whispered, "Why didn't you say anything sooner?" I looked at her like a stranger. "Because I wanted you to feel safe enough to lie one last time." Her hands trembled. She tried to step toward me, but I backed away. You put me in a corner, Isla. You thought I'd beg. Again. You were wrong. She started crying, loud, desperate sobs that I think even she didn't expect. Maybe she thought she still had time, that I'd cave, but I didn't. I walked past her, out the door, into the hallway, down the elevator, and never looked back. As I stepped into the cool night air, my phone buzzed. One message. From Rowan. It said, "You did the right thing." And for the first time in months, I believed it. 3 weeks passed. No messages. No calls. No second guesses. The silence that used to terrify me now felt like peace. I moved into a small apartment above a used bookstore, nothing fancy, but it had sunlight in the morning and didn't carry the weight of betrayal in its walls. I started sleeping through the night again, started eating full meals. I even picked up an old habit I'd abandoned years ago, painting. Nothing professional, just messy acrylics and stretched canvases, but it reminded me that I still existed outside of Isla's orbit. Then, one rainy afternoon, a letter showed up at my door. Handwritten. No return address. Just my name. I knew it was from her before I opened it. The letter wasn't angry or defensive. In fact, it was the most honest thing I think Isla had ever written. She didn't beg, didn't try to rewrite the story. She admitted she had broken something good because she didn't know how to value consistency, softness, or safety. "I mistook your patience for weakness," she wrote. "But watching you walk away was the first time I realized how strong you've always been." She ended it with something simple. "Thank you for not screaming. Thank you for not becoming like me." I folded the letter, set it on the shelf beside a small painting I'd made, blue sky breaking through dark clouds. And that was it. No response needed. No rekindled romance. Just closure. Real closure. I've come to understand that not every ending has to be a war. Sometimes the greatest revenge is simply moving on with grace and letting the other person sit in the silence they created. I still get sad sometimes. I still hear her laugh in old memories. But I no longer feel small when I think of her. I feel free. Genuinely, quietly, finally free. Thank you for staying until the end of this story. If you've ever faced a moment in your life that felt like a quiet turning point, where walking away spoke louder than any argument, we'd love to hear about it. Drop a comment below sharing a historical moment or personal story that changed how you saw someone forever. And don't forget to subscribe to Reddit Confessions for more emotional, thought-provoking stories like this one.